Hello and welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome to another highway range test, this time in the Tesla Model X long range. This is the brand new long range with the yoke, with the 20-inch aero wheels. We're gonna see how far this thing goes at 70 miles an hour in our typical loop style test. Really interesting is I just ran a BMW iX M60, which is not even the longest range version. In fact, it was the least amount of range version. That car was rated for 274 miles EPA, and shockingly, it came in at 339 miles. This car, I have no idea what to expect, but I think the big question is, will the Model X, the most efficient Model X, go farther than the least efficient BMW iX? This has about 5 kilowatt hours less total capacity, about 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. The iX has 105, but that's not a big difference. And so let's see what this thing does in our test. Really looking forward to finally testing the new Model X long range. I want to say a huge thank you to my friend Brandon from Tesla Flex. If you're not on TikTok, he has a YouTube channel as well, and I'll link to everything in the description. This is his car. I've loaned him the Rivian R1T for the day, and he has kindly lent me his Model X brand new long range. He's done some modifications. This is the same car that was featured in our Out of Spec Motoring's Race to Vegas video. So it has some miles, under 10,000 miles still, but in the 9,000 mile range. And yeah, I'll walk you through some of the testing procedures, a little bit about the car and everything like that. So Model X has been around since 2016, lots of different changes and adaptations over the years about the car. And this is the latest and greatest, of course. So inside, I'll show you, this one has, oh, thank you for automatically popping the door there. Our live stream guys, of course, going. It has the white seats, really nice interior. The yoke steering wheel, I've discussed this many times. I own the yoke steering wheel on my Model S, and I've shared my thoughts over and over about that. This is not really about the car. It's all about the range. And so this one is the non-performance version. So it's not the Model X Plaid long range. It is just the long range. So let's talk about what makes this car what it is and everything we're going to be doing with it today. So in terms of testing procedures, always, excuse some of the noise around here from trucks, etc. We always start here in Wellington, Colorado, and that's because we're very close to I-25. In fact, the highway is literally just behind me over here. That means we can get a full charge and get right up to 70 miles an hour consistently. Also, really warm day today. It's about 98 to 100 degrees at the moment, but we're past noon, so it's going to be cooling off throughout the test. Very similar conditions to where we just ran the BMW iX. It's still very much summertime here in Colorado in early September. Really hot outside. And so tire pressures are set. We DC charge every car to 100% state of charge. That gets all the temperatures set in the drivetrain loop, the cooling loop, the high voltage battery loop, so that we have the most repeatability in wintertime and summertime. Of course, there's always going to be differences. The Model X has a huge windshield, so I'd be really curious how the solar load feels in the vehicle with some different changes to the glass material and tinting that they put on. And so basically what we're going to do is let this thing complete. I plugged in at around 30% state of charge, DC charging it all the way to full. The battery's still pretty fresh. Again, under 10,000 miles on this car, only a few months old. So it's a still relatively fresh car. Not as fresh as I would prefer, but that's, you know, good enough, I would say. And there's a weird thing with new Tesla software as of about 2 years ago, and that is a hidden buffer at the bottom of the battery pack. It seems no matter the degradation, it is a little bit sketchy because this requires the BMS to be totally calibrated. Forgive some of the noise here. There's a hidden 3 kilowatt hour buffer once it says 0 miles left, 0% left. And so basically I'm gonna try and go at least 2 kilowatt hours past dead in this car, and I think that should be getting us pretty accurate results. So it wouldn't be a true range test full to dead unless we use the full battery. Will it leave us stranded or not? I don't know, but good news is we have a backup plan if so. Anyway, let's let this thing complete at 100%. Sometimes they take a long time to top charge because they have to balance the pack up top. We're then gonna jump on, go up to Cheyenne, Wyoming at 70 miles an hour, over into Nebraska, flip around, come back. We'll run some loops closer to here as it dies, and then we'll of course give you the final results. Very interestingly, this car is about a 100 kilowatt hour usable battery pack and 2 permanent magnet motors. If you've heard me go on and on before, permanent magnet motors are not the best for range because you can't really shut them off. But Tesla has worked some incredible magic to make this quite large 7-passenger SUV. This one in particular is the 6-seat configuration though, very efficient. Really interesting. We are now topped up to 99% state of charge. I've left the climate control on, so it stayed nice and cool in the car, which is great. If you take a look in the back, the rear captain's chairs, that's just the spec to have. Really love the 6-seat configuration in Model X. I think it's awesome. Love this new display. No one does software better than Tesla, in my opinion. This is just the best. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go here to trips. We're gonna keep lifetime. You can see, wow, 322 watt hour per mile lifetime average over almost 10,000 miles. That is truly incredible. Also because I know Brandon does not have a light foot, so that is very, very impressive. We are going to reset Arizona, and that is what we're gonna be using here. You know what? Let's just name it range test. This is also gonna be a little bit of a test of battery capacity, because we'll be using the full battery. Technically though, it'd be better to do battery capacity test at lower speed so there's less heat loss, but it is what it is. We'll mostly focus on the range here. So what I'm gonna do is let this thing complete. As soon as it hits 100% state of charge, I'm gonna shut climate control off, get the car unplugged. We'll then jump back in and head out on the typical test. So let's talk numbers really quick. The reason I'm testing this Model X is because I just ran the iX, of course, like I mentioned, and everyone's like, my Tesla will go farther. And the big question is, will it? The thing is, if it does go farther, all of you will say, well, the BMW has a bigger battery pack, but it's only 5 kilowatt hours more, and it's on 22-inch wheels, which is worse than this on the 20s. And then it's same conditions, similar temperatures as the BMW, of course. And then, of course, if this goes farther, everyone will say Tesla's more efficient. In that case, yes, it would be. So I really don't know what to expect. The EPA range on this car is 351 miles, going up against BMW's 274-mile EPA in the M60, iX M60 with 22-inch wheels. It just shows you how non-repeatable the EPA testing is, that the different cycles that manufacturers can choose to run their cars in are totally not relevant to each other, and it's just not the best form of testing, in my opinion. What would be better? I don't know, but this is a topic we're going to dig into. It's also why I run every car at 70 miles an hour, because at least then it's somewhat repeatable, constant speed, and everything like that. In terms of pricing, the iX was $110,000, very similar to this car here, but I will say it feels like you get more for your money in the BMW, just a much quieter interior, much better ride quality, and yeah, worse looks. The Model X has never been the best looking car in my opinion, but it looks amazing when you park it next to an iX, especially from the front. The rear of the iX though looks awesome. So yep, looks like we're just top balancing here, 100% state of charge, time remaining calculating. That means that it's just kind of filling up the last few kilowatt hours in the pack. Maybe another kilowatt hour or two we'll stuff in there. That's how we do our tests all the way till it shuts off at full to dead. So let's wait for it to complete and we'll hit the road. By the way, just on price, I brought up price in the previous clip just for a second. iX, 110, 111,000, maybe 113 with destination, whatever it is. It's like less than $113,000 as tested. This car, 130 grand. It's like 129 and a bit. I gotta tell you, like, the supercharger network is great and that might be worth every penny for you, but the iX has great driver assistance as well, does lane changes at no extra charge, has a much better sound system. Again, good sound system in here, just feels so much nicer. That iX, wow. When you put it into perspective as to what Tesla's asking for this car today, that feels like the value of a century. And that was the M60, which I don't even think you need to get. I think you get a 50, and for about 100 grand, you get a maxed out 50 with everything you could want. That's the move. Well, we are now down to 1 kilowatt. Teslas always show charging complete before they're actually done. This one had to do quite a bit of top balancing. We've been at this for well over 30 minutes at 100% state of charge, teetering between 0 and 1 kilowatts now. So this thing's about to complete. Shut off the charger here momentarily. I shut off the climate control just to help it finish a little bit faster, getting real toasty in here. So I'm looking forward to getting on the road and getting some nice AC blowing. And finally, after what feels like almost an hour at 100%, we totally top balance the pack. We're at 100%, 0 kilowatts. And, you know, look, did that really measurably increase the range of the car? Probably not, but there's one way of doing testing, and that is properly. So let's unlock the charger here. I'm gonna split these two in half, remove the adapter, bring that with me, obviously, and then we're gonna head out. I also have to close the trunk. This is not Tesla build quality panel gaps. I knew you were about to comment that. No, I left the trunk cracked. So let's get moving. Car is on. Press the brake again to put it in drive, and now I can press the accelerator pedal. Love that. The auto pedal works pretty well. Now we're gonna go over here to trips. We're gonna reset range test. It's pretty much all we have to do. We're in drive. We're gonna go, whoa, we're gonna go 60, 70, auto. It's gonna blast the fan for a minute, but I think I'm actually gonna manually turn down the fan so we don't get that huge power load on it. And off we go then in the Model X. Oh, one other thing I need to check is suspension. If I go here, suspension, very low. That's what we need. And comfort damping, because we want it to be as comfortable as possible. So off we go then in the Model X on the range test. It's gonna be dark by the time we return, I think. We should see about 4 hours plus of driving. It's gonna be a beautiful drive. And no regen at all, literally none. It just wants to free roll. That's how we know we have a fully topped up battery pack. Good for it to get balanced like this once in a while though. So we'll use the yoke to put the signal on. I'm pretty used to the yoke after having it in my Model S. Now I know I haven't driven it recently because it's been crashed. All of those videos are already up on this channel. And yep, I'll have more updates on that car on my personal channel called Kyle Connor, where you'll just see more random, boring videos about stuff I'm interested in. But no pressure to watch that at all. That's just fun videos for me. What we're gonna do is we're gonna merge onto I-25 North as typical. We're gonna hit 70 miles an hour by the end of the on-ramp, lock it on autopilot, confirm the GPS accurate speed, and then basically run until the thing's out of juice. Not that it really makes much of a difference, but we are gonna go into chill mode just to help smooth out throttle inputs. But if you control the throttle yourself, it won't affect range here at all. And so 60 miles an hour, we can actually back off a little bit. The thing is, you don't wanna go hard throttle because the more power you pull, the more resistance goes up, and then you have massive heat loss. So here we go, 70 miles an hour, locked in on chill mode. Autopilot, come on, there we go. Let's see how this thing does, cruising along. I gotta check the GPS speed. Well, cruising along in the Model X, first thing is, wow, the noise is just night and day compared to the BMW iX. Interestingly, this car has double pane glass and active noise cancellation. The iX has cancellation as well, but only single pane glass. I don't know how BMW made that car so quiet with only one piece of glass, but yeah, definitely a lot louder in here without question. So much noisier. So there you go, I've commented on that. We don't need to go any further into it. But I will say that the GPS speed, just like the BMW iX, is 1 mile per hour over indicated. So you're gonna see me running at 71 miles per hour instead of 70, and that is purely because that is the GPS speed. Interestingly, the iX was the same way. We had to run 71 miles an hour in that vehicle as well to calculate GPS speed. So we are at 99% now, and we're just cruising along. And the first bit of this stretch is always rough, but I'll update you every 25% of the drive. We'll check as soon as we cross into Wyoming, of course, of how much energy we use. It's always a good indication at the start of a drive, but sometimes it means nothing. Just depends on every car and how it does throughout the loop style test. Here we are passing into Wyoming now. Let's take a look. 91% state of charge. Typically, we know it's going to be a good test if we're above 90, and we definitely are. However, take a look here. Not great efficiency for the start of this test, but again, we're always going a little bit uphill, and no wind today, and 95 degrees Fahrenheit, so very similar conditions to the iX, and just cruising along. It'll definitely level out once we get up to Cheyenne and start playing around over in this area. That's why we do a loop style test, because on the way back, we get all the benefit of going downhill. What on earth is going on over here? This guy is just spraying cow dung all over the freaking road. Sorry, Brandon, but your Model X is going to be covered in you know what. Damn, look, it's all over the windshield. How do you wash this thing? We got to bring this to a car wash before we bring it back to Brandon. It just got poop all over it. And coming up to the wonderful state of Nebraska. I've run the windshield washers, but you can still see some remnants of poop all over the car. We'll definitely have to give this thing a wash before we give it back. We're at 76% state of charge, so I'll check in with you here momentarily, but just a perfect day for range testing. Quite warm, but no direct sunlight at the moment. It's kind of all somewhere else. I don't know. Everything's nice and shaded in here at the moment. Just living the dream. Welcome now to 75% state of charge. We are at 76 miles into the test, consuming a pretty stellar 304 watt-hour per mile. I told you it was going to average out after we crested the hill, and here we are, just cruising along through Nebraska. Perfect conditions, no traffic, very little wind. This is exactly what we're looking for to get the best result out of the Model X. And we are at 59%, just making our turnaround point here. We probably could stretch it to, I believe it's exit 69, which is over here, which is what we did with the iX, but I think we'll just play it safe and make a loop here. We can always go farther, closer to the charger. Better to get back down that way. And yep, I'll update you with the progress, but just came out of the little construction zone, similar to same thing that happened in the iX in yesterday's range test, so I'm pretty comfortable with the comparable results at the moment. We were able to go pretty much 70 miles an hour, but for the last couple miles, we were behind this Corolla who was doing 2 under, but I actually had a similar situation in the iX. Nebraska Traffic Jam again, so hard to squeeze out into traffic out here. And what we're gonna do is loop back onto the highway, make another left turn, and go back towards Cheyenne, Wyoming. And of course, we're going to target a 70-mile-per-hour highway ramp speed. All of the highway ramps are pretty similar in their spacing. Let's do a nice wide racing turn here in the Model X. Nice. Full racing line. Right into the sun we go. That's going to be our life, staring at all this poop-covered windshield for the next few miles. I swear, I've hit the washer so many times, it just doesn't get better. This thing's gonna need a thorough deep clean after this test. It's been a pretty nice, perfect drive so far. Really beautiful conditions. We're down to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but the sun's actually been a little bit behind a cloud. So I would say a little bit less thermal load, at least from the sun, than the iX in this test. So maybe slight advantage Model X. Hard to say, but I think it is a slight advantage. Also, Model X has a much bigger glass roof than the iX, so maybe that evens it out. Anyway, 50% state of charge. We've driven 155 miles so far, used 46 kilowatt hours, and we have burned an average of 294 watt-hour per mile. So very efficient, under 300 watt-hour per mile in a 7-passenger SUV with 2 permanent magnet motors. That's pretty efficient, I have to say. So curious to see how this pulls in. Of course, Tesla's state of charge discharge curve isn't totally linear. They hide that 3 kilowatt hours at the bottom, which is roughly 3% extra at the bottom. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We can't always trust what the car is telling us. We have to go pretty much until it's out of juice. So let's just keep rocking until we're all out. Take a look at that sun off into the distance. Man, I feel like we're on another continent. Sahara Desert, anyone? That is just wildly beautiful. And I am so sad you have to look through a windshield covered in poop because, yeah, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? It's kind of crappy. Wow, with that beautiful sunset going down, we are at 25% state of charge, just about to pop onto I-25 South here in Cheyenne. 227 miles driven, 299 watt-hour per mile. Let's keep this thing going. The live stream's heating up. Everyone's trying to guess what the efficiency will be, and time will tell. But if we're doing 300 now at high elevation up in Cheyenne, I think we're going to be under 300 watt-hour per mile, which is just incredible for a vehicle of this size. No question, Tesla has mastered efficiency. So let's hit that right turn signal, take the off-ramp with some vigor because we don't want to slow down too much. So just kind of sending it through the corner here. A little bit of tire squeal. Man, Model X handles so great, doesn't it? Just awesome. Live stream just died. Got to kick it back on. Let's get it back up to 70 miles an hour so we don't lose much time. Hit reconnect. So many things happening at once. And here we go, 71 miles an hour, boom, right there, locked back on. Time to keep rocking. And we are just arriving back to where we started here in Wellington, Colorado. We still have 19% remaining, so I'm just gonna loop up and down this section of I-25 as per usual. This should be pretty similar to our full round trip efficiency, 287 watt-hour per mile. That's crazy efficient for something of this size. Tesla is just magical when it comes to sipping the juice. Really curious to see if this can get close to the BMW iX's range estimate with a little bit less battery capacity. Again, 5 kilowatt hours is not insignificant, but it's not a huge difference either. So let's see what the Model X can do. I'm rooting for it. 10,000 miles, woohoo! Just crossed over 10K, baby. We are now at 5% state of charge, just running this thing out. We've crossed 300 miles driven. Interestingly, we've only used 86 kilowatt hours. So, very interesting. Efficiency is looking amazing. Road is a bit bumpy when you air the suspension out to very low. It gets a little bit firmer than you would like, than I would like at least. And yeah, quite noisy in here. I know I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. It's been the hot topic of the live stream. You join me now at 5% state of charge. We've covered 305 miles. Interestingly, we've only burned 86 kilowatt hours so far, so not sure what's going on with that. You would think that there's quite a bit more energy capacity left at 5%, so not sure. We're just gonna keep going. It's possible that we'll get close to that 100 kilowatt hour, although that might be gross capacity. Usable could be in the 90s somewhere. So, you know, I was really hoping to get 95 kilowatt hours out of this thing, but I'm not sure there's another 9 left in it if we're already at 5%, but time will tell. Let's just keep on trucking. This is our exit. We are at 2% state of charge, but guess what? I'm gonna keep going because I'm banking on that 3 kilowatt hours at the bottom. So we've already pulled 89 kilowatt hours out of this thing. We're gonna go at least 1 or 2 exits more up this way. Just keep this thing running at 70 miles an hour for as long as I feel pretty comfortable with it doing so. The nice thing is we can always loop back on the return road over here, reconnect. Such bad cell service around here, which sucks. There's a little frontage road that runs alongside, so perhaps we'll take that on the way back. That way if we run out, not a huge deal, but we're gonna let this thing keep going, at least for the meantime. 1% state of charge now. If we take a look here, the car says we need charging to get back to the destination. It shows a 0% arrival, but 6.1 miles left, and now it's thinking we actually can make it back. So I'm actually gonna loop around and take the highway back, and then we'll run up and down the frontage roads after one more loop. So it says 1.8 more miles, and we'll loop around. And here is our exit right now, Owl Canyon Road, just taking it off of autopilot, starting to do very gentle regen as we get up to the exit. I like these exits that go over the highway because we can kind of coast up to the stop sign and then very gently merge back onto the highway, which is what we want to do, especially at low states of charge. I do have a small power meter on the display here. You can see some dots over on the right. This is what I'm primarily going to use to gauge when we need to pull into the charging station, because of course, once this hits 0% state of charge, I'm going to pull up this little display right here, trips, and I'm going to add 3 kilowatt hours to whatever we pull, and that should be the buffer right there at the bottom. So let's head out this way, loop around, 1% state of charge, gentle accelerations as always. We don't want to pull pack voltage. Basically, if you dump a lot of current into the motors, pack voltage can sag, and you don't want to bottom brick a basically, yeah, have a brick hit bottom voltage and shut this whole thing down. So I think it's kind of brave we're jumping on the highway. We could take the frontage road, but hey, at least this way we can maintain 70 miles an hour longer. And then after this will be the last time on the highway, this little stretch. Then we will go up and down the side roads at, you know, between 50 and 70 miles an hour, something like that. We have hit 0% state of charge and 91 kilowatt hours used. It actually showed 0 when there was 90. So we're not going to go past 92, 93. Let's say 93 kilowatt hours is going to be our max. So let's run this thing down, and we'll keep an eye on the power meter and see how it feels running it all the way out. And we are just approaching our exit up ahead. You can see autopilot's working great. No signs of any kind of turtle mode or anything like that. Teslas don't specifically go into a turtle mode, but plenty of power available. Just kicking it off 70 miles an hour right here. We've been at 0% state of charge, 321 miles at 70 miles an hour constant. But of course, we're gonna run this thing out to get the final score. So what I'm basically gonna do is get another 2 kilowatt hours out of it or so. And yep, just regenning everything we can up to the stop sign here. And we're just gonna run it up and down the frontage road till we get back to the charging station. We just got this message right here that says, range warning, we're almost too far from our charging station. Well, don't worry, we're at 0%, we're driving away from the charging station. What the heck are we doing here? But that's the only way to range test Teslas. You gotta go pretty far till they're out. Again, just cruising at about 55 to 60 miles an hour, something like that. Keeping a close eye on the power meter, which is that bottom bar there, and just feeling the car. Then we're gonna tiptoe this thing in at bottom pack voltage. We have just been cruising up and down this little frontage road, again at about 55 miles an hour, and we've burned 92 kilowatt hours out of the pack. I think I'm gonna do one more loop and then pull it into the charger. I think we can do one more, maybe two if we're lucky, but let's just make another U-turn here, get back up to speed, and loop this thing around one last time, and then we'll pull it in dead. We are still about 2.5 miles away from the charger, and we have pulled 93 kilowatt hours out of the pack, which means it hit 0% at 90, and so that's 3 kilowatt hours past zero, which is pretty much all the buffer we have. You can see the power meter is shrinking, but not as quickly as you would expect, but I think I'm not gonna risk it and do another loop. I think this is still far enough away from the charger way up there where we're eking pretty much everything out. We've been at 0% for a long while, still maintaining pretty good speed at about 55 miles an hour. I think we're gonna see a 330, 331 mile number out of this thing. I'm really surprised we couldn't get more out of the battery pack. I thought we were gonna see 98 kilowatt hours drained out of this thing, but for sure, it's only given us 93. Yep, and I'll give you my final thoughts when we wrap this thing up. But for now, let's nurse this into the charging station and plug it in. And we have made it to the charging station, very much 0% state of charge. We'll head back to the same charger we used for the start of this test, and 93 kilowatt hours out of this thing. I'll get the final count. Sometimes it goes up a mile after the test. So one of the best backup cameras in the business right here. Tesla just does it better than almost anyone, I think. And here we go into park. Final tally. I'll let the live stream guys have it. Normally I don't, but the final tally is trips 331 miles. Weird, we were only able to pull 93 kilowatt hours out of this thing. Maybe we could have a tick up to 94, but I don't think so. I mean, this thing was really out of juice. Like, it was hard throttle. And 281 watt hour per mile is just so impressive. It's so efficient. Again, I'll give you my final thoughts outside. Let's get this thing plugged in. Not good to leave batteries for too long this dead, so we'll give it the juice as quickly as possible. Where's the CCS adapter? Right here. CCS adapter into the charge point charger. Here we go. And just because this is Brandon's Model X Tesla Flex, you got to give it a little tap before plugging it in. Not my thing, but he always does that. That's what this car's used to, so we'll definitely do that right there. And now time to give it the juice at very low pack voltage. No, not really. It was. Okay, there we go. Voltage was all over the place. Now we're at 329 volts. Keep in mind, full was 460, so big voltage spread on this thing. Looks good, slammed, covered in poop. When we got that crap on it, you can see it. I'm gonna take it through the car wash just after this. And wow, what a trooper this car was. It's done well, done really well, so efficient, but weird about the battery capacity. And there you have it, the end of the range test. The Model X is a trooper. It did pretty well, that's for sure. So let's talk about the numbers, the results, and how it compares to the iX, which is the reason we're doing this test. Well, in terms of efficiency, 280 watt hour per mile, truly impressive. I think it was 281, 282, something like that. Truly impressive efficiency from this car. So no question, it is a bigger car than the iX, and it's more efficient. However, the battery pack is roughly 100 kilowatt hours gross, I believe. but Tesla usually lets you use most of it. And again, we went from 100% state of charge where it clicked off to pretty much hard throttle pulling in here. It felt like to me like there was not much left in that battery pack. I mean, 3 kilowatt hours past hitting 0%. I really gave the thing every last chance I could do to get all the mileage out of it. And it did better than I was expecting. I think I was expecting 308 miles out of it. Again, 20-inch. This is the most efficient Model X you can get, the 20-inch wheels with the long range package. It's just called Model X now. They don't call it long range, but it's the newest, longest range Model X. And 330 miles, 331 miles is pretty good. So the iX M60, which is the least efficient one, and we had the 22-inch wheels, which has like an 8-mile EPA less rating or 6-mile EPA less rating than the standard M60, 274 miles rated. That did 339 miles. Now, all of you Tesla guys are gonna say, well, the Model X is more efficient. It had a lot less energy to work with. The car's got 10,000 miles versus 1,000 miles, and this had some degradation, and you're all correct. It's sometimes hard to get apples to apples, but we did just prove that the longest range Model X did not go as far as the shortest range iX in the same test. Now, the iX had a lot more battery, and that's why, man, inline 6 Jeep life. That sounds awesome. Now, the iX had more battery to work with, of course, but still was surprisingly efficient for a big German tank. In terms of the driving impression, spending so much time in these cars back to back, there's no question the iX is a better place to be. So much smoother suspension, and the road noise, that's the biggest difference to me, is like, wow, the road noise in the BMW is so much quieter. Both have active noise cancellation. However, if you're going after maxed efficiency, the best drivetrain tech in the biz, still to this day, Tesla is king when it comes to efficiency. However, it has been outranged by BMW. That is a big story in my eyes. I know it's going to cause a little bit of controversy, a lot of different takes. I tried to share just the data and both sides because we had the live stream guys going. We had Tesla lovers, Tesla haters. You guys know me. I don't really care what it is. I just want to know what the car does. And I think I really gave this every last drop of chance I could give it. And man, 331 miles is not bad at all. Typically, Teslas come in way under EPA range rating. This did, but not by as much as I thought. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts. Those are the numbers. And just to show you as well, let's take a look. We're now at 5% state of charge, maxing out the ChargePoint charger at 200 amps. That's all it'll do. If we go over here, here are the results. 331 miles, 93 kilowatt hours, and 281 watt hour per mile. Again, I don't know. I would love to test a fresh one to see if we can get more than 93 kilowatt hours out of it. Of course, there has been some degradation with a 10,000 mile car, but Brandon takes pretty good care of his battery pack, so it can't be more than 2 or 3%. But again, 2 or 3% would make this go farther than the iX, and that's you know, that's kind of the range we're working with today. So wish we had a brand new X to test with, but again, can't thank Brandon from Tesla Flex enough for letting me borrow his Model X. Subscribe to his YouTube channel for YouTube shorts and maybe some longer form content if we can convince him to do so. And of course, take a look at his Tesla TikTok channel called Tesla Flex. Huge thanks again to him for letting me borrow this car. Thanks to you guys for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. I'm going to charge this thing up to 70 or 80%, and I will see you on another video soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.